If your baby crawls in a funny manner, or if your baby scoots on their bottom rather than crawling to move around, or if your baby skipped crawling altogether, then you definitely want to stick around and watch this entire video. This is the type of crawling I'm referring to where she's actually not crawling at all. She's kind of scooting on her bottom. I really don't like this because she's leaning over to one side, pulling herself with her hand on the ground and scooting herself on her left butt cheek. My name is Cherrick Gordon, and I've been a pediatric physical therapist for over 20 years. During that time, I always insist that babies crawl on their hands and knees. When I say crawl on their hands and knees, some people might refer to that as creeping, but as long as baby is moving around on all fours once they have the ability to do so. Like this, where she's on her hands and knees. Let's talk a little bit about when your baby should start crawling, first of all. Baby should crawl by at latest 12 months. That's the normal guidelines. I personally have an earlier window where I become concerned if a baby is not crawling. My window is usually somewhere between 7 and 9 months. I'd like to see baby crawling in that window and then move on towards crawling towards a couch, pulling themselves to stand and working on those cruising skills in preparation for the next big milestone, which is walking. So let's dive into why you want to insist that your baby crawl on hands and knees or creep on hands and knees, depending on what terminology you're using. Now, there are a whole host of benefits. The first benefit is the ability to impact fine motor skills. Crawling has a significant impact on fine motor skills that will show up later on in your baby's life. Skills like reading, writing, holding a pen properly. Now, if you put your hand like this and drop your wrist down. Now, if you drop your wrist like this and try to make a fist, you will notice that that fist is not very tight. The reason for this is the position that the wrist and your fingers are supposed to work in is with your wrist up like this. Now you can make a tight fist. So why is this important? This is important because as your baby spends a lot of time crawling, your baby's hands are like this, or with their hands in this position, and they're spending a lot of time crawling around. So they develop the wrist position, which is the functional position for doing almost anything that we're going to be doing later on in life. So you want to insist that your baby crawl and make sure that they actually practice it and do it the right way on their hands. Another benefit of crawling is neurological. There's a part of the brain called the corpus callosum, which has a whole bunch of fibers coming from one side of the hemisphere of the brain to the other, crossing in this place called the corpus callosum in your baby's brain. This is what the corpus callosum looks like. It's a structure deep inside your baby's brain. And it is responsible for connecting the right side of the brain to the left side of the body and vice versa. Now, in case you don't notice, the right part of your brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, controls your baby's left hand, left leg, all the activities that's going to be happening on the left side of the body. And vice versa, the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So practicing crawling gives baby a lot of opportunity to develop these neural pathways as they are forming and growing. It gives baby the opportunity to strengthen these neural pathways while baby is just playing around on the ground doing a whole bunch of crawling. Another positive benefit of crawling is that it will impact your baby's ability to write later on and to read. So reading and writing, baby needs to cross midline. If you are reading a book, the eyes will move from the left side of the page over to the right side of the page, crossing midline. And so crossing midline is super important in terms of just your body communicating, again, the halves of the brain communicating with each other. The same thing with writing. Baby needs to be able to stabilize a piece of paper, put their wrist in this upright cocked up position that I referred to earlier, hold a pen and start writing. And baby's going to start writing on the left side of the page and be able to cross midline and finish writing on the right side of the page. Another benefit of crawling is that while baby is down on their hands and knees, their hands and knees are pretty much fixed to the ground, and so baby doesn't have to control those joints. The only joint the baby has to control while baby is crawling on hands and knees is the hip joint. Whereas if your baby skips this crucial milestone and moves on to walking, your baby is expected to control the ankle joint, the knee joint, and the hip joint, as well as support and control their upper body with regard to rotation as they're walking. All of these joints. So now, if your baby misses out on that crucial part of their developmental stages by not crawling, they miss that component of how to control their hips. And so now you have baby standing, but you'll notice there's no stability in the hip. And so baby doesn't feel confident. Or if baby walks, it is usually not a good, well-controlled gait pattern. My final point with regard to crawling is this. If your baby skipped crawling, should you go back and provide opportunities for your baby to crawl, even though your baby may already be walking or your toddler may already be walking? Is it worth the effort to go back and try to capture some walking skills, some crawling skills? And the answer is absolutely yes. Some things that you can do: go to the playground, crawl around on the playground. Those little toy tunnels, those are great activities for kids who can actually walk, to go back and crawl through the tunnel. Again, the crawling will help them, benefit them later on in life as they get into their preschool and school years. So that's my physical therapist rant about crawling. I hope you found it informative and beneficial. If you did, and you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing it with anyone you feel would benefit from it, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you get notified when I drop another video. Okay? I'll talk to you soon. Take care.